So this is just a longer erection than should be, and it's very painful for the individual that has to do that. So some of the side effects, I'm just telling you some of the side effects of these. And there are other ones. If a person has a heart condition, they're taking some type of nitrates, you can have a rapid drop in blood pressure. So there are, side effects, and just be knowledgeable of that when you're prescribing. Okay, so the question here is, what's the answer? Blood flow to the erectile tissue of the penis. Is that enhanced by alcohol consumption?
No.
It'll kill it on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's increased by activity of the parasympathetic neurons.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The body was that. Yes.
The answer is B.
It's B.
Yes.
It's not enhanced only by tactile. We know that you get a psychological stimuli that's processed by probably the limbic system. You can have increases in activity in sympathetic neurons, but only at the time of ejaculation, not at erection, just at ejaculation.
Quick question. So how does alcohol do it?
I don't know. I have to think about the physiology on that one. You had an assignment about nocturnal emissions.
Yeah.
Did you look it up?
Nope. No.
And we had another assignment.
Yes, tomorrow I promise. Pinky promise. Big test today, tomorrow.
You got a big test today?
Mm-hmm.
And what?
His is today, mine is tomorrow.
Oh. Oh, excuses. Okay, all right, okay. So nocturnal emissions. Basically, let me just put it this way to you. When it usually occurs during, around the time of puberty, in the adolescent male, and basically it's a sign that puberty is occurring. And it's just spontaneous, and it could be an erection, it could be ejaculation for the male. For the female, it could just be lubrication of the vagina. So that's nocturnal emissions. It's most prominent in the teenage years when puberty is occurring. So basically, it's just saying that the system is being primed and development is ensuing properly. Now, some adults can have them. I'm not getting into that. Okay. I'm not going there. Some adults can have them too, but mostly teenagers. Okay, so this case, we got a 42-year-old male that has a decrease in sexual desire and erectile dysfunction. He has visual problems and headaches during the last month. He has a small amount of growth of the breast, and we call that gynecomastia. Stimulation of the nipples, he has some milk production, we call that galactorrhea, and his testicular size is small, we call it hypogonadism. All right, what do you think of when we got all of this going on? What endocrine gland do you think of?
Prolactin.
Hmm?
Prolactin. One is prolactin.
Endocrine gland, give me a gland.
Oh, gland. Thyroid. No. Pituitary. Anterior pituitary.
Okay, anterior pituitary. Why do you say anterior pituitary? I will agree with you.
Because it secretes the prolactin.
Because what?
Prolactin.
Because it produces, that's one good reason, it produces prolactin. Okay, let's take this.
And also
Okay, so
gonadstia.
basically the gynecomastia and the small amount of milk can be due to excess prolactin, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But what about the testicular size?
Should be by the gonads.
What hormones would you attribute to small testicular size?
Growth.
From the anterior pituitary?
No, G and
LH and FSH, right?
mm-hmm.
So what do you think this guy has?
Yeah. They're produced.
What about
increase.
prolactinoma? A pituitary tumor that's secreting excess prolactin. I don't want you to be able to diagnose this, but I just want you to be able to put your physiology together, and just, it's good that you know that it's the anterior pituitary. So, the answer, of course, would be what?
D.
D, excess prolactin production. Now, usually why you can see a smallness in the gonads is because prolactin can really inhibit the reproductive axis, but also the size of that tumor, because he had headaches, probably means that he had a large tumor and it's affecting the optic chiasm. And when that begins to happen, one of the first, when those tumors get very, very large, one of the first things that can happen is that you'll see problems with reproductive functions. So in addition to the prolactin, the size of the tumor can be inhibiting the release of LH and FSH. And so,
Can prolactin on its own produce gynecomastia?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But that's a little controversial. Yes, yes, but it's more complex than that.
Is it, I guess, combined in yesterday? I mean, is
It
that
can
a
be,
big-
yes, yes, it can be combined with that. Yes. And, you know, males can have breast cancer as well. We know that, okay. But the take-home message here would be just for you to identify the hormone from the anterior pituitary. Okay, so now let's move on into the female reproductive system. And we kind of looked at the external genitalia of the female yesterday, of course. The clitoris, we know that where that's derived from is the same as the glans penis. Both are very, very sensitive tissues. The labia minora and the majora coming from the folds and the swellings. And now we can see the opening to the vagina. It's coming, that's a part of the external genitalia. And we talked about the opening to the urethra. And everybody knows what the hymen is, which is the tissue that's covering the opening of the vagina initially. Okay, we go from there and we look at this particular view. We're starting with the ovary. We talked about how the ovary was made. And then we know that at ovulation, this fimbriated end of the oviduct catches, and we're going to talk about this. I'm just kind of giving you an overview right now. So if you just want to listen, we'll go through this again. The ovary, during every cycle, an oocyte is released, and it's picked up by the fimbriated ends of the oviduct. And it travels through the oviduct. We know that the oviduct is derived from the Mullerian duct tissue during development, and the oviduct then comes into contact with the uterus, which is here. And this is the cervix, which is the opening to the uterus. And now we have the vagina. Okay? And then the clitoris is here. So we're dealing with the female sexual organs. Specifically, we're looking more now at the uterine cavity. So you can see a little bit better. The oviduct is also called the fallopian tube, as you well know. And so here you can just they're just kind of showing you a cross-section of where some of the follicles are. The follicles are basically, each follicle contains an oocyte. Each follicle contains an oocyte. And a number of them can form every cycle. And as I said, you see that the oviduct is not attached to the ovary. The ovary pretty much sits out there, but you can see that the fimbriated end is like fingers, and so at the time of ovulation, it just kind of sweeps in there and picks it up, and I'll show you that more specifically. And then you can take it up into the uterine cavity. And if fertilization takes place, it's going to be in the oviduct or the fallopian tube, and then you come down and implant in the myonucleus of the uterus. Now, this is an actual uterus, and unfortunately, this individual had cysts on the ovary. so you can just kind of begin to see what it looks like there. So in terms of the structure of the uterus, we have the endometrium and the myometrium. The endometrium is the one we're going to be working with in terms of hormones, because the hormones have to prime that endometrium. They either, estrogen makes this thing proliferate, it expands it, makes it bigger, thicker. And then progesterone makes this endometrium secrete these glands. There are glands in here, and they begin to secrete stuff like glycoproteins and other nutrients in preparation for pregnancy. So when the cycle is dominated by estrogen, the endometrium expands. When it's dominated by progesterone, then it's secreting. So we're going to be talking about that. So now, let's go just to the ovary, because we need to really pay attention here, because I figured like